Hello, my name is Alberto Sonnino, and I'm going to present you a very brief overview of DDoS attacks in the age of blockchains. So this talk is perhaps a little bit different from all the others in the sense that it really aims to present the problems that are in the space. It does not come out of a paper, so it does not provide any novel information per se, but it highlights a problem that has been vastly ignored in the blockchain community, namely the problem of DDoS attacks against consensus protocols. I will try to give you a very brief tour of blockchain consensus protocols in the space, and then I highlight the weakness in terms of DDoS that are potentially unique in the blockchain space that may not happen in traditional server client applications that most of us are familiar with. And highlights the novelty in terms of challenges and give all the opportunities that could be in the space. So maybe a very quick overview about how blockchain works from a black box perspective, at least, is that at the heart of every blockchain, we have a set of nodes. The green nodes are good, they follow the protocol, but we always have a number of nodes that are Byzantine. Namely, they're bad, they're corrupt, and they can act arbitrarily and do any kind of bad actions that they deem useful to corrupt the blockchain itself. Then we have clients, those are external applications that submit transactions to blockchains. So first they would pack it, sign it, submit it to the set of nodes by connecting to one or multiple nodes. The nodes will run an internal consensus protocol to totally order the client's transactions and then verify their execution. After that, if everything works fine, they would store it, append it to the chain, and create a chain of blocks of client's transactions that are persistent, committed, and immutable forever. So the best examples is the money example. If we have Alice that wants to send 5 coins to Bob, she will create a signature over that statement, submit it to the blockchain, and then the nodes will order it to prevent double spending from Alice, making sure that she's not giving the same 5 coins to Bob and Charlie, for instance. Check a number of things that are potentially dependent on the smart contracts that Alice is calling. But in this example, it would be checking that Alice has enough coins on her account and that the payment is correctly authorized. If everything works fine, the transaction is added to the blockchain, and then everybody can just look at a chain of blocks and deduce the balance of Alice and Bob at any point in time. So blockchains, in a very informal way, have 2 key properties. The first one is safety, that in a very informal ways implies that there are no double spendings. Transactions are totally ordered, and there is no way of spending twice the same coins. Liveness says that the protocol eventually makes progress, that if Alice is correct, the sender is correct, and connects to enough good nodes, well, then the transactions will eventually be added to the blockchain. There is nothing that the adversarial nodes can do to prevent it. And here are some of the attack surfaces in terms of DDoS, again, that have often been neglected in the space. The first one is obvious, is the clients to nodes communication link, when Alice submits the transactions to the blockchains. And the second one is the nodes-to-nodes links. That's the core of the consensus protocol, and those are perhaps a little bit less traditional by the way of those communications are structured. So here there are some unique challenges, or at least non-traditional challenges for the space. The first is that those nodes running the blockchain have no fixed identity. We don't really necessarily know who they are, what they do in life, and why, what are their motivations to connect to the blockchains. In permissionless settings, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's even worse, because nodes can just join and leave at will at any point in time. In more modern quorum-based systems, then still they can come and join at will, but on fixed epochs. These epochs can be a day or a week, but this means that it's unfeasible to have hardwired lines between all the nodes and have dedicated internets or connections that would work only between those nodes, because they would rotate all the time. And they work over the internet, as I said, and may use any kind of providers. So the key neglected threads here would be the DDoS attacks, obviously, any outages, and routing hijacking. So I'm now going to explain you a little bit more how those three things would not only affect performance, but potentially also the security itself of the blockchain. And this, again, may be a little bit outside the traditional world where DDoS attacks would impact availability. Here, they may really impact safety and liveness by breaking the properties and allowing double spending of the resources. But first of all, I need to give you a quick overview of the blockchain networks model. So those networks models are very old. They're the ones that are traditionally assumed to build consensus protocols. They don't necessarily represent a reality, in my opinion, but that's how we work. And so that's how those properties, those are the models in which the properties should hold. The first one is the synchronous model. So that says that when node 1 sends a message to node 2, when the message is received within a time-bound delta. If this assumption is not met for whatever reason, then we may have a safety issue, so double spending of resources, or a liveness issues, namely some transaction may never be ordered. The second model is the partially synchronous model, and is already a little bit more complex. This says that traditionally there is no time guarantee between messages sent by node 1 to node 2, although they're eventually delivered, so they're not dropped. But at some point, GST comes. That's a period of time that lasts for long enough, but it will end eventually. And within GST, that's the orange line, well, then we have a guarantee that that node 1 sending a message to node 2 will have its message delivered within an unknown time-bound delta. So protocols that works in the partially synchronous model do not know when GST arrives. So they need to ensure that safety holds all the time, even before GST, but that liveness is typically only guaranteed when GST arrives. The rest of the time, progress may not happen. And the last one is the less stringent model, but it's only very new blockchain cores are efficient and work in this model, simply assumes no time guarantees between messages, but eventual delivery. But again, those are a lot more rare than the first two models. So leader-based protocols. I'm just giving you a brief overview of how they work. And now I'm going to present two types of protocols, so the leader-based protocols and then some off-chain protocols that works in the model that I've described, and the attacks and the issues that can happen if the nodes are under DDoS, for instance. So leader-based protocols are very popular. LibraBFT, DMBFT, work are like that, are leader-based protocols. Tendermint's also the base of a number of blockchain startups today. And PBFT, perhaps the most known blockchain protocols of all times, also is a leader-based protocol. So, of course, there are many different natures, but usually they follow a very similar pattern. There is a leader, whoever that is, potentially elected through round robin, that aggregates a lot of client transactions into a block. Once it has a block, it signs it and broadcasts it to the other nodes. Every other node verifies it regarding some protocol-specific rules, like making sure that there are not double blocks from the same leader for the same round and things like that, and then emit a vote if everything is all right. They would only emit a single vote per block per leader per round, but this is the idea. Basically, the leader sends a block, and the other replicas just reply with a vote. Then the leader aggregates all the votes into a certificate, which is a quorum of signatures, and rebroadcast it back to all the nodes. And these patterns works over and over and over again. After a few rounds, depending on the protocol, we will have the head chain that is committed, and then immutable, and nothing will ever change. So here you see the problems that can happen if a leader fails, because it has a very specific role in this operation. So typically, what happens, what should the replica do if it does not receive a certificate or a block from the leader? Well, it has a timer, typically set between 5 to 30 seconds, and when it expires, all the replicas run a complex view change protocol to select and agree on the next leader, assuming that the first one is faulty, corrupt, or just dead, something like that. And then we start over with a new leader. So you can see that this is a problem that can happen when DoS attacks happen on the nodes to nodes links. And now, what types of attacks is it? It's not only an availability attacks. If the consensus protocol was a synchronous one, so the synchronous model of before, this can actually lead to safety attacks, namely double spending of resources. Really, Alice would be able to create coins out of thin air. If the protocol is partially synchronous, this could be a liveness attack, and repeating such a DDoS attacks against specific nodes, namely every time that a leader is selected after view change, will allow you to never commit and just kill the liveness of the protocol. In some sense, you would ensure that GST never arrived, to speak in the terms of the network model. Here is other very popular protocols which are different. Those are sidechains protocols, and they're extremely simple. I'm here explaining you how they work in a very general way. There are tons of different sidechains protocols. Potentially the most known is the Lightning Network. So step one is Alice and Bob would like to send some coins to each other and transact, and they would then lock some fundings to a particular address of the blockchain or to a particular smart contract. So they would just send 5 coins to that address. Then step 2, they would off-chain, so potentially even through SMS, exchange signatures. Alice would sign I owe 2 coins to Bob. And Bob, after a while, needs to also send some coins to Alice. Instead, rather than going to the blockchain, it would just reply to the SMS and sign, I owe you 4 coins. After a while, and this channel can be on for a number of months. I think the average is about 9 months, something like that. Then Alice or Bob would try to close it. They would contact the blockchain and say, oh, well, I'm Alice, and you remember I deposited 5 coin, Bob deposited 5 coin at a time, and here are a bunch of signatures to illustrate what happened between me and Bob, and now I would like to request 7 coins. The other 3 are probably for Bob, right? And here is the weakness of this kind of protocols. The smart contracts or the blockchain will wait, will set a timer, in order to give the chance to Bob to reply and say, wait a second, Alice lied. She actually hid one of the signatures saying that she owed me, 5 extra coins. So at the end of the day, I should be getting 9 coins. She's actually, she should get only 1 coin, not the 7 she's asking. Here are some additional proofs. And then you see the issue, right? So this can be an example of DoS attacks. Between the clients to node links. What happens if Bob is under DoS attacks and the timer expires? Well, then Alice can steal the coin just by lying and omitting some of the signatures in the very last protocol message that she sent. Because sidechains are actually an example of synchronous protocol. It might seem over theoretical, but as of today, the Lightning Network has more than $140 million locked into those channels. So solutions exist. The one that would naturally come to mind would be SCiON, that can improve security by its own design. And it turns out that it interfaces pretty natively with these consensus cores. So you may imagine a system where you have your nodes that communicate over the traditional internet, as they do, and you make absolutely no changes to the consensus protocol, in the sense that as long as a node, as far as a node is concerned, is just sending a message. And then you would have a way to switch between the traditional network, traditional internet to SCiON, if you may feel you're under attack, if you require some extra level of security and things like that. This would allow you to offload all the issues of packet authentications, DoS resilience to the SCiON nodes, rather than the consensus protocol itself that fundamentally has a very different job. It just needs to order transactions. You get internet fault independence, which is always nice, just by switching those networks. And this is to improve security, but if we think about it, we can use SCiON not only to improve security, but also to improve performance under attack. if you remember the leader-based protocols, a DDoS attack against the leader, namely slowing down its blocks, slowing down its broadcast of certificates by targeting the routers or targeting the leader itself, would create a view change after a timer and and then start over with a new leader, right? These may not be a disastrous attack if it happens once, but if it happens even rarely, it severely degrades performance. SCiON would provide failover and multipath in case those links become slow. If a leader realizes that it's not able to fastly propagate its blocks, it can realize that, for instance, by saying, "Oh well, I'm not receiving any votes, right? Maybe I should try a different path," or even sending through multiple paths the same messages to have faster replies and improve the performance of the consensus protocol. And other solutions would work as well, right? All of those are solutions in your space that are potentially never been applied to the blockchain space as of today. So lightning filter is another one that comes to mind. That would be a black box approach to protect the consensus nodes. Packet authentication, for instance, is the first example that comes to mind. Packets in the consensus protocols are typically just authenticated through digital signatures, which are not that cheap to verify, right? Having the lightning filter do that job could alleviate already a lot of complexity from the consensus protocols. And then the node duplication, the certificates, particularly the aggregate of signatures, are self-authenticated by verifying the quorum of signatures. And verifying certificates is the most CPU-intensive operation of the consensus protocol. So potentially a simple DDoS attack would be to replay all certificates to a node that would then start verifying them and would need to have some internal logic to realize, wait a second, I've already verified that once. All of these in constant memory, right, while doing other things. Well, a solution like lightning filters would just take care of that as well, and just, again, leave the job of consensus and ordering to the consensus nodes by offloading the DDoS attacks and protections to other parts of the system. So in conclusion, there is a lot of money involved in blockchains today, I'm sure all of you know, but a lot of things can go wrong. It's just that they didn't went wrong yet. It doesn't mean that they will never go wrong. It's an emerging field and provides a lot of opportunities in terms of DDoS resilience and internet architectures. And DOS attacks against blockchains are vastly ignored. I said it once, but I'm saying it again. This is the case of today.
Hi, Alberto.
Hey.
We have a couple of questions. Thank you so much for your presentation. First one, why choose a leader-based protocol where, for instance, due to round robin, the next leader is known? Wouldn't that increase the risk of specific attacks on leaders? And why not aim for the decentralization built on top of SCiON? Was that a...
Yes, so should I answer now?
Yes, please.
So leader-based protocols, as of today, are the one that provide the lowest latency that we have. We are at about 2 seconds over the internet. Whatever solutions that is not leader-based actually has a higher latency. As of very, very recent works, we managed to have non-leader-based protocols for 3 seconds latency. But those are like experimental. They've been like produced a few months ago. So it's just the state of the art is like that. For the second question, so I think that no one in the blockchain space have never tried to use anything like SCiON. It's really two different worlds. That's why I believe there is an opportunity here.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another one. Are there any real-world examples of DDoS or route hijacking attacks that was able to disconnect a large enough part of transaction verifiers such that distributed consensus could not be reached and transactions could not be processed?
Yes, so there have been a number against Bitcoin and Ethereum that are known, but those are more permissionless protocols. In terms of quorum-based protocols like DMBFT, Tendermint, PBFT, and things like that, We don't know yet. So all of those are extremely young. They have at best 5-6 years in productions for the oldest ones. And if such an attack would happen, it's not even clear that people would know. Every node operator is fundamentally against all the other nodes operators, right? They're trying to extract money from the system. They're not there to say, oh, look, I'm under DDoS, please do business with someone else, right? So again, it may happen in the future and it may have happened, and it's not clear if we'll know if that happens.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. What opportunities do you see for next generation architectures, such as SCiON, to improve the resilience of distributed consensus protocols?
Well, most of the one that I said during the presentations, it's not only security, but it's also performance under fault, right? In terms of security, the main advantage is that the consensus protocol, which is already a very complex beast, does not have to handle things like DDoS resilience and any internet-related issue. It would just have a communication channel and works like that. On the other side, on the performance side, so it turns out that most of these leader-based protocols have catastrophic performance when even one fault happens. So they're Byzantine fault tolerance, but if one of the nodes is down, you will have something like 10x or 5x extra latency, and your throughput is divided by like 5, 3, or 10 sometimes, right? So even managing to isolate the faults and not having it cascading on the rest of the network can really improve performance by a lot.
Okay, Alberto, we have more questions actually coming in, but we ran out of time. Thank you so much. We will forward all the questions to you. And thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you to all our speakers from all over the world. Let's pause for a short break.